Hey, I'm just following orders. Let me get one of those slow motion pictures, bro. One of the slow motion pictures.
You gotta shoot at 60 frames per second.
Come on,
They say they wanna hit that raw shit. These niggas claiming that they bullshit. These niggas better move and coach shit. As if they make the wrong move and coach shit. You see me, they like, ooh, keep on shopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop it. They say they wanna hit that raw shit. Coming up, I'm about to bullshit. They see me, they like, ooh, keep on shopping. I'm on my body, real niggas right beside me. Damn right, I brought my army, going up like a rocket, and can't nobody stop me. These niggas garbage, so watch your mouth, boy. Coming all black, slithering house, call me mouth, boy. I'm off the hip like a cowboy. I'm a king, you should bow, boy. Shorty like that, man, you cut up. Nothing I can handle. 144 in the booth, going Rambo. Niggas do you dirty like a stick in a bando. That's why I play the corner like a bum with a banjo. I'ma lead by example. Ooh, keep on stopping, got this bitch off the hand, got the juice, got the drip, about to hit the bitch with the salt. It ain't rap, it's assault. Can't taste a bitch unless you with the coke. They say they wanna hit that raw shit. These niggas claiming that they bullshit. These niggas better move and coach shit. As if they make the wrong move and coach shit. Hey! One way, one way, one way, one way, one way. Coming up on my I do it how a veteran be. You better than me. I'm Reggie at the edge of the key. It's all money, no honey. Think you settling? See, you locked up, fucked up, and it's back to the streets. It's One West. You can check the residency. I reside with soldiers died on the soles of their feet. Cause it's death before designer. Ain't no coward in me. Cause I'm cold as a bitch's shoulder. You ain't calling a week. Get the cooking on this beat. Hope you like it well done. Got them killers rolling with me and they all red rum, red rum, red rum. Got you fuckers scared some. Get the banging on this beat till my fucking head numb. Black Glock, red drum, black and yellow air ones. Homie, you ain't got a vest. I suggest you wear one.
Told these niggas we was going up. They was doing a lot of talking. Now these niggas ain't saying shit.
Feeling like a legend in this shit. Lil nigga, I'm past veteran. Never feeling third. Lil nigga, I'm past second. Guns, I gotta have them all like Ash Ketchum. Shotty break a nigga ribs up like his wife left him. We all stepping. Kill you with kindness cause I'm dead nice. That 5'7" put you 6 feet, not talking height. That judge giving out 5, but you doing life. These hands are rude GPS. A mean right. That's mean right. We build different, you know the vibes. And we something authentic, we notarized. I keep a 144 because I know a kind. Noah's Ark, you know I'm with animals when we flowing by. We back again, no cap, when I'm with Cap again. Yeah, they say they want smoke until we matching them. Everything righteous, so you know when we get back at them, you get hit up with a K, but no acronym. They say they wanna hit that raw shit. These niggas claiming that they bullshit. These niggas better move and coach shit. As if they make the wrong move and coach shit. You see me, they like, ooh, keep on shopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop it. They say they wanna hit that raw shit. Coming up, I'm about to bullshit.
We talking about practice, not a game, not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that? And we talking about practice.
Back row.
Best believe that I'm top 3. The only thing is I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Put me anywhere of and they wonder it's not me. It's beef, we strut a nigga block, that's chopped cheese. No peace, the butterfly sting him, that's Ali. You reach, I teach him with the handle, that's Kyrie. Machines you hook like a Roman, that's IV. You a sheep, I'm a go, it's a difference, so watch me. You weak, all hooks, no punches, so block these. They mock me, I
just show them how it goes, try to stomach this thug life. They brain got the nose, bandana on the grip. All heads coming out the foe, connected from Cali to New York, niggas, so let it go. Made for this, nigga, I eat bars and drink flows, thinking you woke into your third eye peephole. Line for line, this shit too easy, it's like a free throw. Mastered the game too early, this bitch a cheat code. It ain't a game, these niggas lame, they bring a shame. If I'm with an officer, it's a number in his name. We ain't the same, you want the easy pass, tell him change his lane. Shit, I've been through the fire, you can't stand the rain, take an aim. Tell him runner he can try his best, drive a car named after me, that's why I'm in the vet. Laugh at these niggas once again and I ain't break a sweat. Number one at everything I do, that's why I'm one west. The Lord is not the God of the dead, so when I die, coming back for my spot, so forever I'm top 3. Just tell him to watch this, janitor with the mop stick. You gon' need a defensive lineman to block this. On point when I bomb shit, 10 for 10 I do not miss. I'm barking with a full bulldog, it is not mixed. They can see that my mind's sick, I don't write, I find shit. I don't like it, then I'll switch. If I touch it, it's diamond. Tell a bitch that I'm God sent. It ain't because my kicks is built like 5'6", 5'7" is my bitch. Dangerous, high risk, I lose it, get another one. You think I'm talking about a girl, I'm talking about another gun. We here now, hey look, it is what it is now. We don't fuck with the house niggas, we burn the crib down. I'm ahead now, and I hope they can hear now. I don't care if you think it's it, nigga, I don't fear clown. Silences make it sound like raindrop, that's a quiet storm. Get the job done in the view and get fired on. If you niggas standing for nothing, what you dying for? If you put real with real, that's how I was born. Walking this bitch ready for war, I'm in riot form. I want these niggas to see me flex, that's why I am armed. I shouldn't live in the crib, nigga, I should buy a farm to go through this shit so effortless. Best believe that I'm top 3. Only thing is, I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Best believe that I'm top 3. Only thing is, I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Best believe that I'm top 3. Only thing is, I'm not 2 and I'm not 3.
Yeah, on 44 shit, you know what I mean? Busy man, busy man. Look, when that shit drop, you step all the way on their neck, step on their neck and their head with that shit.
Fine then, I ain't show no mercy, we gon' show them boy what time it is. I'll pop out like I'm Samuel, I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it, got it out the mud, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel. He nice, but he don't show them skills, how I show them skills. He ride, but he don't work the wheel, how I work the wheel. They mad, I'm too solid, circle tight, yeah, vacuum seal. No, they want my life, I ain't worried. I got rank for real, I got real soldiers, kill for me, nigga. Watch yourself. They say you been in beast mode lately, you is not yourself. When you dropping that
to sell you crack. You know why? Because I never saw you before. But you a black man like me. That's right. And it's worth something.
This is Black Watch with Commanding General Yahanna, the only man to lead blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans.
God made man on this earth. The white man he made man. God made man. God wants man to obey him.
Bringing you real news.
You don't need a black man in the White House. You need a black man in every black house.
For many years, there's a lot of black people who didn't realize how deep the racism of white America was.
You ain't gonna do nothing unless you decide where you gonna stand at with the Most High.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Righteous solutions to issues plaguing our nation.
Boy, you better wake up and see the power that is within blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians.
Join us every Monday from 9 to 11 p.m. Black Watch. Let the show begin.
All right. Let's clap it up. Damn right. Shalom, Israel. Shalom. Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Barakatham to the brothers. Yahweh Shamar Alathan Bahashim, Yahweh Shai to the sisters. We are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out of 1 West, 125th Street out of Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yahanna. We are not affiliated with no other Israelite group or Christian organization, and we teach the truth according to the Bible. And that's that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's holy people. You understand? The real Jews, the 12 tribes of Israel, according to the Bible, and that our oppressor, the slave master, the colonizer, you might call him an ally, you understand? But the Bible calls him the devil, you understand? And we teach that truth according to the Bible, you understand? In this society, you hear many people say, I'm speaking my truth. And that's okay. You understand? That's okay. But in here, we speak God's truth. You understand? We don't speak our truth. We speak God's truth. You understand? And this society has shown time and time again that whenever the Lord's prophets go into the book that talks about God and God's words, society rejects it. Society rejects the things that are right, and they embrace and love the things that are wrong. We reject the things that would fix and change our lives found in this Bible, and we accept the culture of our enemy, of our oppressor that destroys us and confuses us and leads us to be absolutely destroyed. You understand? This is why we must now do away with everything that we've learned. Do away with everything that we've been accustomed to and taught to do. You understand? In the Christian church, you call them generational curses, when the church itself is a generational curse. You understand? Going to church, being Christian is a generational curse, because our people before we arrived here were not Christian. You got to ask yourselves, what were black people worshiping before the transatlantic slave trade? What language did we speak before the slave trade? What culture, what foods did we eat? What music did we listen to and play? What did we do before the transatlantic slave trade? But you notice in history, black history starts in 1492. You ever notice that? For those of you that grew up in the same public school system in America that I grew up in, black history starts in 1492. We were never taught anything about our people prior to 1492. You understand? All we know is that we were brought here as slaves, and now the civil rights movement, you understand, and the black history taught in the public school system is really slave history. You understand? When black history, according to the Bible, is so much more vast. You understand? Our history starts with Adam. We are the descendants of Adam, the descendants of Noah, the descendants of Shem, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all the way down to today. That's who we are. We have the richest history on the face of the earth. And you can find that history and that culture and our original language and our original laws in the Bible. The Bible is the best-selling book of all time on the face of the earth. You understand? Every race of people has tried to attach themselves to our book. When the book is not talking to every race of people, it's talking to one set of people, and the people who it's talking to reject it. And that's why we live on the bottom of society. That's why we suffer the most from the curses of this place. Go ahead, Shapat.
Salaki, you were talking about generational curses,
Mhm.
but one of the biggest generational curses is the parents.
The water.
Because, you know, as the scriptures say, we born into sin. That don't mean that our body is sinful. It's the sin that our parents taught us to do while we was babies.
This is the thing that Christians can't grasp. They'll say that we're born into sin to justify now the gay community in the church, because the whole doctrine behind the LGBTQ community is that you're born gay. And therefore, if you're born gay, why do they say you're born gay? What comes behind them saying you're born gay? Because if anybody might know, why does the LGBTQ community do so much and invest so much in the pseudoscience that people are born gay? Shapat.
Because I mean, most gay people from some child molestation before they knew better.
Well, they're not going to admit to that. It's a reason why. There's a specific reason why they push so hard that you are born gay. For time's sake, they teach that and push it so hard because if you're born gay, there is no changing who you are. It now stops the person from being accountable and fighting that demon. It's just like if somebody said you're born a child molester, we wouldn't condemn child molesters and we wouldn't require them to change. If someone said they're born a crackhead, we wouldn't condemn crackheads because that's who they are. We wouldn't require them to change. But the truth of the matter is, being gay is no different than being a child molester, a crackhead, a murderer, or any crime according to the Bible. You understand? You can change. You understand? When the Bible says you're born into sin, it doesn't mean that you were born a sinner. It means you were born into a family with parents who taught you to sin. And if you talk to any honest member of the LGBT community, they will tell you that they lived that alternative lifestyle because either they were molested or they were in an environment that taught them to be curious about these other sexualities, or they were in an environment that fostered that type of behavior. Either way, they were never born gay. I've never met a gay baby. Right. I've never heard a baby cry and I hear it cry like, yep, he's gonna be gay. That's a sissy cry right there. That boy gonna be sweet. You never heard that. You never seen a girl baby be born and you like, oh, she gonna be a tomboy. Like what? That doesn't exist. And anyone who thinks it exists is delusional. You understand? Everything that we've learned to do has been taught. We've learned it. It's a learned behavior. You understand? We've been conditioned. And the sad part of this about this society is chief in teaching our people the ways of this society, of our oppressor who runs this society. And that's what we're going to go into tonight. You understand? We're going to go into how you don't even understand that you're being influenced to think thoughts that don't belong to you. And really, any thought that you have doesn't belong to you anyways. It's influenced by something greater than you. The problem is, instead of us being influenced by something greater than us, being the Most High God of the Bible, being our culture that has been around, that is ancient and righteous, we're being influenced now by our oppressor. And you think you're making your own decision when really you are falling into the trap that has been laid out for us. You understand? I'm preaching officer Kazak Ahmad. This is I.S.U.P.K, Washington, D.C. You understand? Tonight is a Tuesday night brotherhood class. And the topic of tonight's class is the dark truth about the woman king and Hollywood propaganda. You understand? The dark truth about the woman king and Hollywood propaganda. If you didn't know, we're going to get into what the woman king is. Many of you may already know, but we're going to get into it. You understand? If you're just tuning in, like and share the stream. If you're just tuning in or you've been watching and we haven't done so yet, hit that thumbs up button, hit the like button, and share that stream. You understand? Be just as aggressive as the LGBTQ community. Be just as aggressive as the Jehovah's Witnesses who knock on your goddamn front door. Be just as aggressive as the Mormons. You understand? As every different group in society that seeks to further the agenda of this society. You understand? Do you know what lengths our oppressor went to push this? Like, you think Christianity is better than Islam. America would teach you that Islam is a violent and barbaric religion, and Christianity is a religion of civilized people. That's the same doctrine that they use to colonize our people. They use the guise of we have to civilize these people. When in all actuality, you go into history, the same way this image was pushed is the same way Allah and Muhammad was pushed. You understand? It was through violence, through murder, through deception, through absolute barbarianism. You understand? That's how this image was pushed. And to this day, our oppressor uses that much aggression in pushing the ideology of this image. You just don't see it because they are so subtle. So now all you got to do is turn on your TV, turn on your radio, listen to the music. Go ahead, Shapak. That's a lot. For time's sake, you can't do nothing for right now. This image right here is the mark of the beast. You understand? If you believe in this image, you have the mark of the beast. You understand? You didn't know that the mark of the beast is referring to this. You understand? This is the image of the beast. And anyone that believes that this is Christ, you understand that this man is coming to save God's people, you have the mark of the beast. You understand? If you're on the police force, if you're in the United States military, you understand you have the mark of the beast in your hand because you use your hand now to enforce the ideology, you understand, of this man. If you are a Christian pastor, you understand, and you have it in your forehead, you understand, because now you are, or you're a Christian, you are now pushing the ideology in our minds. You understand? If you could, Shabbat, give me Colossians 2:8. You understand? That's what the mark of the beast is. And it's important that we start there because you don't realize that it's constantly being pushed and pressured on you. You understand? It's constantly being pressured on you. The Christian church teaches that we have to wait for some mysterious man that's going to come and now deceive the entire earth when he's here. He's been here. He's been in power since the 1400s. You understand? The so-called white man is the devil the Bible speaks of. Right. The word devil means deceiver. And he has deceived the entire earth by pushing this image as chief, but whitewashing all of the images of the people in the Bible. There's a book that you can buy. It's called The Russian Icons. I believe that book is about $6,000 right now. You understand? I may be a little off, but I believe the book is around $6,000. It's called The Russian Icons. And that book has the photographs of the original images of the people of the Bible. You understand? When the Christian church split into two, the old Christian church split into two, you understand, and what in history calls the Great Schism, you had the Western Church in Western Rome, and you had the Eastern Church. You understand? And that Eastern Church was still using and painting true images of the people of the Bible. They were black. You look at that Russian Icons book, you'll see images of Mary being black, of Peter being black, all the disciples of Christ being black, Christ himself being black. You will see everybody in that Bible being depicted as dark-skinned black people, or not just dark-skinned, as black people. You understand? Because that is the truth of the Bible. The problem is we now are faced with depictions and images of white people when it comes to anyone in this Bible, because our oppressor is the devil. And Christianity has been forefront in pushing the devil's agenda. If you could, Shapat, read what you got.
Oh, God. The book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through.
So I can mute your laptop up for sure.
Okay.
You just tuning in. Make sure you like and share the stream. Just tuning in. Make sure you like and share the stream. Yeah, I think it's too wild now.
Come. The book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit.
Give me 1 second. Right, the Bible says, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and deceits, vain philosophies and deceits. We didn't understand that the vain philosophies, you understand, that we're destroyed by is the religion of Christianity, the religion of Islam. I remember black people, you understand, at one point were flooding into the religion of Islam because you thought that it was this whole entire awakening and Islam was the way for black people to go, the original Asiatic black man. And you know, Islam teaches brotherhood amongst black people. And you've seen this image, this ideology of now Muslims being the solution to black problems. And then long behold, you realize and find out what the I.S.U.P.K has already known since 1969, that Islam is just as disgusting and wicked and destructive to our people as Christianity. The biggest drug dealers in our community are Muslim. The goddamn prisons in America are filled with Christians and Muslims. You understand? Christianity, Islam, all the religions of this society are why we're destroyed. That's why we're destroyed. Vain philosophies, deceits. Deceit is a lie. You understand? That's why we're destroyed. And if you leave it up to a Christian pastor, they would blame all of our problems on the brothers and sisters that are poor. You understand? That are down and out. Like Christians hate poor people. The religion of Christianity itself frowns upon poor people. The Catholic Church hates poor people. How do you know? Because all their sermons are always geared towards abusing poor people. When Christ came and uplifted the poor, the Bible speaks about the poor inheriting the earth. Go ahead, Shapak.
Talking about y'all broke down,
yep.
Busted and disgusted.
Busted and disgusted. Right. And you know what's so beautiful? The Lord is revealing just how disgusting the church is, just how really the true spirit of the Christian church. Every day you see more and more videos, you understand, of these Christian pastors live streaming and speaking freely. And that's why we don't have to go and march in front of your goddamn church like the purple sodomites do. We ain't got to go and stand in your parking lot of your church and wait for you to come outside and debate you. We leave you alone. In the I.S.U.P.K, we leave the Christians alone. We speak against the ideology that you believe in because it's a lie, but you won't see us harassing you Christians at your churches and all that. We don't do that. You know why? Because we understand that as long as you continue to operate, you prove more and more that you don't have the truth. The longer you continue to teach the lies that you teach, it only benefits the truth. Just watch. You're gonna see in just a second. They're gonna have stripper poles in the church. Just let time continue to go on. They're gonna have stripper poles in the church, bottle service. You understand? In the church while you in there. You understand? Don't be surprised. Some of y'all churches is already doing it. Some of y'all who don't get the media attention like the big churches. Some of your churches is already in there getting it in and doing all type of nastiness, and we just don't know it because you don't get the media attention. But don't be shocked, man, when you see the church look more and more like the club, like the world, because Christianity is the doctrine, the philosophy of the world. Go ahead, Shapak.
So I did see a video where I guess one of the young men in the church, one of the members of the church was a young guy who had a song, I guess a Christian song, it was a rap song.
Mm-hmm.
They let him perform in the church. And he took his shirt off. He was standing on the pews. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, he already had on some skinny jeans, you know, with the shirt off. So he was basically naked in the church.
Right. That's the thing. You Christians, you say as long as you say in the name of Jesus at the end of it, it's you know, it's somehow righteous. Like, oh yeah, we rocking out for Jesus. And so you'll have people in there being complete rock stars, and we rocking for Jesus. We rapping for Jesus. We twerking for Jesus. I'm not making this up.
Right.
We twerking for Jesus. It's disgusting. And this is why we're destroyed, because the church is full of vain philosophies and deceits, full of lies. It's full of lies. That's it. Go ahead, Shapa.
I'm pretty sure that woman that wants to be a senator that was twerking for votes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she goes to church.
Absolutely. I bet she's a excellent church going member, because that's the product of the Christian church. And we're going to go into that in just a second. Read that one more time if you could, Bubba.
Sir. The book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit.
Keep reading.
After the tradition of men.
After the tradition of men. It's traditional for us now to say, it's traditional for us to go to church. That's right. Baraya said, drop it low for Jesus. Exactly. You understand? Pop it, toot that thing up for Jesus. Pop that blank for Jesus. You understand? As long as you say for Jesus at the end of it, the Christian church accepts it. You understand? Drag queens for Jesus. You understand? Voguing for Jesus. You add for Jesus at the end of anything, and the Christian church now all of a sudden accepts it. It's clean. When it's not clean, it's very disgusting, and it's the reason why there's so much violence, there's so much crime, there's so much disparity and poverty and depression in our communities, because the Bible says we're destroyed for vain philosophies and deceits and the traditions of men. Many of you go to church on Sunday, every Sunday faithfully. Why? Why do many of you go to church on Sunday? Some of you hate going to church, and you still go to church just out of habit, because this is the traditions of men. When the Bible says the Sabbath day is Saturday. So why are you continuing to go to church on Sunday?
Right.
You do it because it's a tradition. Why do you eat that chitlin? Why do you eat them chitlins and have that Sunday dinner when you're eating ham hock and all types of disgusting things, when the Bible says swine is a sin? Well, we over here on the East Coast in Maryland, so why do you eat them crab boils, them shrimp and them crabs and all the disgusting things that the Lord told us not to eat? Tradition. A lot of things that we do is tradition. What's another word for a tradition? A generational curse. You Christians further generational curses. When you teach God's people that God's laws are done away with, you now are teaching generational curses. You're furthering the curses amongst our generations. The Lord told us in Deuteronomy 28. Let's get it. Give me Deuteronomy 28. And I believe it's 15. Deuteronomy 28:15. I'm going to show you the Christian church. You are the biggest perpetrator of generational curses. You talk about blessings, like Pagawa said, prosperity preaching, money, you understand, but there's no correction. You understand? You talk about blessings, this, blessings, that, when you push curses on God's people. And I'm going to show you how in the Bible. Go ahead, read that, brother.
Come. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of thy Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments.
That this right here is speaking about what would happen if God's people, the children of Israel. Now, this is to give you some context. This is Moses now speaking to the children of Israel. Moses, through the power of God, just delivered the children of Israel out of captivity, out of slavery, from the hands of the filthy Egyptians. And because we came out of a land that wasn't our own, we were now brought into the wilderness. And the Lord is now getting ready for us to be in a land of our own, to be a nation of our own. But just like any nation, you need laws. If you didn't know, we don't know these things because our minds are been trained to focus on going to work. Just worry about getting to work on time. That's it. Worry about going to church, you understand, getting to work on time and forgiving the white man. That's what our lives are trained upon in America. When the Bible speaks about us building a nation for our own, with our own language, our own culture and customs, our own laws. And if you didn't know, in order to establish a nation, you must first enact laws that govern that nation. And that's what the Bible is. The Bible has our laws that the Lord has given us to establish our nation and maintain our nation. And Moses now is speaking to the children of Israel who were just brought out of Egypt on these laws. And what would happen if we follow the laws, which you can read from Deuteronomy 28 and 1 to 14. And now we're going to read about what would happen if we didn't follow the laws that the Lord gave us to govern us as a people. So now let's read it again. Baba Kashar.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Hearken is Old English for listen. The Bible says, and this shall happen if we don't listen to God. Keep reading.
Thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments.
To observe and do what?
All his commandments.
But the laws are done away with.
All his commandments.
This is the thing that we fail to realize. There are more than 10 commandments. And even outside of the 10 commandments, those commandments are not done away with. The Christian church teaches, and it's one of the backbone ideologies in church, that the law is done away with, that the Old Testament, what they call the Old Covenant, was done away with when Christ came on the cross and died. That's what they teach, that the Old Covenant is done away with. So now we don't have to follow these laws. At the same time, the Christian church collects tithes, 10% of your money, when tithes are part of the law. You can find that in the law. So for any Christian that is currently paying tithes to some pastor, and that pastor tells you the law is done away with, you're being hustled. You're being lied to. If the law is done away with, you should tell that pastor now he should return to you every last red cent that you have paid to that pimp, because the law is done away with. That money has been obtained illegally, according to the Bible. That is ill-gotten gain. You understand? Now, many pastors will say, well, the law is not done away with, so they can continue to collect tithes. But now they puts them in the box, because if the law is not done away with, pastor, why are we having pig? Why are we having ham and shrimp and pork, crab, and lobster at our Sunday dinners? If the law is not done away with, pastor, why do we allow homosexuals in the church? If the law is not done away with, pastor, why are you convincing black women to leave their husbands? It puts the church in the box. Either way you slice it, on both sides of the sword, the Christian church is wrong. You understand? You had your hand raised, Shapat Salaki.
Now, just comment on the fact that he said that the law is done away with, but he still teaches that you can sin, even though he allows homosexuality, divorce, and all that.
Right.
But they still teach that you can sin.
Right. You understand? A lot of churches teach that Christ died so that you can sin. That's the sad part. That you have such a bastardization of our holy records found in the Bible and what our King Christ did, that they actually teach that Christ died so that you can sin. Well, if Christ died that we can sin, then is it right to molest a child? Then it should be okay to murder now. It should be okay now to steal. But if somebody steals from you, it's a problem. If somebody murders somebody you love, it's a problem. If somebody molests your child, it's a problem. The Christian church is full of wickedness and confusion. And our job in the I.S.U.P.K is to do away with the lies that have been so prevalent in our lives through the Christian church. So now let's read what what God says. What would happen if we didn't follow his laws?
God. To observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses.
That all these what?
Curses.
All these what?
Curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Verse 16.
That's it right there. The Christian church teaches black people not to follow God's laws. By saying God's laws are done away with, you are now teaching God's people that you don't have to follow the laws. And this is what the Lord said that will happen if we didn't follow his laws, that we will be cursed. The Christian church furthers generational curses. They teach blessings when in all actuality, they're teaching us how to be more cursed as a people. Cursed by our God, cursed with poverty, cursed with drug addiction, cursed with mental illness, cursed with just all types of afflictions, actual afflictions. You understand? High blood pressure, heart disease. We're the number one in all these things. You understand? And this is not by mistake. This is not by coincidence. Clearly, God is trying to show us he is against us right now because we have been against him and turning our back on his words. You understand? Let's get into the topic, man. Let's get into the topic. So now we have this movie coming out. You understand? If you're just tuning in, make sure you like and share the stream. If you're just tuning in, make sure you like and share the stream. You understand? So, all right, so check this out. You got this movie coming out called The Woman King. If you're listening, type a 1 in the chat if you heard about this movie, The Woman King, or you've seen the preview, the trailer for it. If you've seen the preview or you've heard about this movie, type a 1 in the chat. It's called The Woman King. You understand? If you heard about this movie or you've seen the preview, type a 1 in the chat. You understand? Let me see what we got. So we got ones coming in, okay? Right, so we got ones coming in. So many people have heard of this movie. You understand? So for those who haven't heard of this movie called The Woman King, I would play the preview, but I don't want the streaming services to flag the video for copyright material. I don't know what is allowed as far as copyrights go. So in your spare time, for those of you that haven't heard of the movie called The Woman King, just go watch the preview. I'll give you a quick backdrop. The Woman King stars Viola Davis, the sister that is famously famous sister that acts. She's a pretty good actress as well, but I hate the roles that they give her. To me, they always give her mammy roles, mammy type roles. You understand? But that's just my opinion. You understand? But it seemed like they always give her mammy roles, and I wouldn't doubt that it has something to do with her being dark skinned. You understand? Being dark skinned with what we would call nigga features. You understand? You understand? The sister is a beautiful sister. You understand? But white society would deem her as the prototype slave looking woman, dark skinned with the wide nose and big lips. You understand? Well, that sister who's an excellent actress. You understand? I'm not taking anything away from her acting career, but this sister Viola Davis, it seemed like would accept the lowest of the low of roles. And a lot of times I would ask myself, why would she accept these type of roles? You understand? But that's besides the point. Viola Davis is starring in this movie that is about the Dahomey people. You understand? The Dahomey people who are the people of Benin today. You understand? So let's get the Dahomey people first, Shapat. You understand? The movie is about a regiment of the Dahomey military that were all women. You understand? There's an all-women regiment of the Dahomey military, and they were known to be fierce warriors. They were known to be very fierce warriors, and they had a reputation of just being just relentless and brutal in battle. You understand? All through West Africa. You understand? And this movie right here is supposed to shine light on this story that's apparently been hidden. You understand this? And when you see the trailer, for those of you that are not as seasoned to see the white man's agenda, you will see the trailer and be like, yes, we need more movies like this. That's right, Black Power. You understand? Black women rock, Black girls rock. You will see the preview and think this is good. You understand? You would rather see this than the slave movies. I know when they proposed Emmett Till having a movie, many Black people was against it. You understand? Anytime they come out with a new slave movie, Black people are like, we tired of seeing the same stories. We don't want to see the same movies about slavery. Why? Because our people hate the truth. You understand? Our people hate the movies that depict what actually not depict, but depict a time period that many of us would like to forget. Many Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans would like to forget that we are the descendants of a people that were brought here in shackles and chains, and that served a people who we want to love today. You understand? So many of our people, we want to erase the whole idea that America was not built for us. You understand? We didn't build America for us as equal citizens. We built America as the slaves, and to this day, we are treated as third-class citizens. So many times when we see movies like this, Black Panther, what else? What's some other ones that Black people was real excited about? I think Black Panther was probably the biggest movie that Black people were just cheering on and was so excited about. Like, yes, this is what we need. This is more. The Black youth needs more movies like this. Black empowerment, Black Panther. I know in the old days, not the old days, but about 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when Shaka Zulu came out, the movie about Shaka Zulu, Black people was happy about that. Yeah, we need to start telling the stories about when we was kings and the stories about how we was fierce warriors. And there's so much wrong in us being excited for these movies. And we're going to get into that tonight. So first, let's get who the movie The Woman King is about. You understand? Judah Rise said, Viola Davis said, more Black women should date hunky white men. Pretty ugly. Yeah, what she said is pretty ugly. You understand? What she said is pretty ugly, but I would never go out my way to call that sister ugly. You understand? Because white society already believes she's an ugly woman. You understand? So I would never go out my way to call that sister ugly. What she does and says is ugly, Judah Rise, and I agree with you on that. For any sister to advocate Black women to date white men, that is ugly. And that is of Satan. When you understand how Black women had to fight to keep these men off of them. You understand? Had to fight and hide and be real crafty and find ways to get white slave masters to not rape them or their children. You understand? So for a sister to voluntarily now lay down with an oppressor, with a colonizer, it really says a lot about yourself. And I didn't know Viola Davis said that, but it's not hard to believe it because look at the roles she takes. Viola Davis, if she happens to read this, or it's like if she happens to watch this class, Viola Davis, you should stop taking those roles that you're taking. You understand? If you had any sense of self-esteem, you wouldn't accept a lot of the roles that you have portrayed. You understand? Denzel Washington is famous for that. Denzel Washington and the late Cicely Tyson, they were famous for turning down certain roles. You know why? Because they understood that the image that they portray affects their people, affects us. You understand? So Denzel Washington, he said famously, he wouldn't play a role. Yeah, that's the wild. He wouldn't play a role that forces him to kiss a white woman or to have sex with a white woman. Denzel Washington refused to play certain roles now that will have him be intimate with white women. Why? Because he understood the influence that he has on his people. Viola Davis, you agreeing to play these mammy roles, it just lets us know that you would tell Black women to date white men because you don't mind projecting the image of being subservient to white people. You don't mind doing that. You don't mind projecting the image of being the woman king, which we're going to show you what this is promoting and what this is really is all about. Right. So Shapat, if you could, let's get the dahomey people. It's spelled D-A-H. It's spelled literally like dahomey, H-O-M-E-Y. You understand? The dahomey people. Barbara Ayers said, even the title is propaganda. It absolutely is. A woman can't be king. She's just a queen, right? The woman king. It's a reason for everything that Hollywood does. And we're going to touch on it tonight. You understand? Because our people, once again, we are destroyed by vain philosophy and deceit. And even though this seems like a good movie cinematically, it's full of propaganda. You understand? I don't doubt that they spent a lot of money. I was reading, and they said they shot it in location in South Africa. You understand? So they in South Africa shooting the movie. You know, I know they spent so much money on this movie. So I can imagine, you know, it's cinematically wise. You understand? It's probably an excellent movie as far as the camera angles and all the different, you know, the props. They probably put a lot into this movie. But as far as what this movie is pushing, it's trash. You understand? Like the brother said, off the title alone, black people should reject this movie. And in particular, black women, you should reject this movie for more than one reason. We're going to get into it. Let's read that, Chappelle. What you got on the dahomey people?
The kingdom of Dahomey was a West African kingdom located within present-day Benin that existed from approximately 1600 until 1904. Dahomey developed on a Abomi plateau amongst the Fon people in early 17th century and became a regional power in the 18th century by conquering key cities in the Atlantic coast, on the Atlantic coast.
Right. So the Dahomey peoples, you understand? The reason why we're going into this is to show you what this movie is about. You understand? Many of our people are going to go watch this movie without having any understanding of the peoples it's portraying. You understand? So Viola Davis, she is portraying this now woman general of the Dahomey peoples. Historically, the Dahomey peoples were what you would call modern day Benin in West Africa. That's who they are. And these people were Africans. You understand? They were famous for their military tactics and being ruthless in war. They came into power through the transatlantic slave trade. You understand? And I'm going to show you why this movie should be rejected and why you should scrutinize everything that comes out of Hollywood. Scrutinize everything that's being pushed in front of your face on social media. Scrutinize everything that you're listening to on the radio. Scrutinize everything that our oppressor has his hands on. Because you better believe it, these people are not invested in giving you what's right, giving you what you need to be strong in this place. They're going to give you what they want you to have to further the agenda of this society, for the longevity of this society. You understand? Keep reading, Chapak.
Okay. For much of the 18th century and 19th century, for much of the 18th and 19th century, the kingdom of Dahomey was a key regional state, eventually ending tributary status to the Oyo Empire. European visitors extensively documented the kingdom, and it became one of the most familiar African nations to Europeans.
Why do you think this African nation became one of the most familiar? That's a very key sentence right there. This kingdom of Dahomey, which is modern day Benin, became the most familiar. What does the word familiar mean?
Close to family, you know what I'm saying?
Right. The most known, meaning the most interactions. So you become familiar with somebody by the more you interact with them. So meaning this kingdom had the most interactions with Europeans. I wonder what those interactions were. You understand? Let's keep reading.
Come. The kingdom of Dahomey was an important regional power that had an organized domestic economy built on conquest and slave labor.
Built on what?
Built on conquest and slave labor.
Now, I want to know if this movie, The Woman King, is going to depict just how aggressive and the transatlantic slave trade the Dahomey peoples were. They probably won't, because they're relying on the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade to go and watch this movie. You understand? That's what they're not banking on African people to go to the movie theaters to watch this. You understand? Africans don't need to watch a movie about a warrior, a woman king. You understand why? Because Africans know their history. Africans know where they come from. You understand? Go ahead, Shapat.
It's like, unlike most black Americans, Africans don't look at women as kings.
Well, okay, that's debatable because many African nations, depending on what tribe and all that, they don't have the laws that we have that have order amongst their people. Like many Africans would, many Africans to this day circumcise their women, meaning they mutilate the clitoris of a woman. Right. So the way they view women is not even relevant in a sense, you understand? Because African men hate African women. You understand? They love them enough to have a family and have children with them, but all heathen men have to be taught how to treat women by Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You understand? We are the only ones who know how to treat women, and you don't see it because of us following after our oppressor. And so now we are the biggest in domestic violence, like the oppressor. We're the biggest in rape and all types of disgusting crimes against our partners, our spouses. You understand? Like the white man. When the Bible talks about how black men wouldn't let the sole of a woman's foot touch the ground when we were following our customs and our laws, because we treat women the best. And every heathen nation had to learn from us how to deal with their women. White men hate white women. You go read the Roman records of how the emperor had to pass a decree that made it profitable for men to get married to women, because the Romans were so entrenched in homosexuality that they weren't marrying the women. And the Roman government understood that if we don't get these men to get married to women and have children, we won't have posterity. We won't have a continual lineage of our people. And so they made it very beneficial for them to get married. And that's the only time white men dealt with women, was to have children. Outside of that, they was always in the saunas. And that's why your modern day saunas today come from the Greek and Roman bathhouses, where they would be in there after they worked out in the gym. The word gym literally is in Greek translates to naked place. You understand? Like if you go look at old Greek and Roman statues of the Olympics and them doing exercises, they were all naked because that was the culture in the gym. It was a homosexual culture where the men just loved to be around each other and were gay. And that's not exclusive to just the Greeks and Romans. That was all heathens. To this day, heathen men foster a culture of homosexuality. If you go to Afghanistan today, it's very common to know that those Afghani, they call them the Pashtun Wali. The Pashtun Wali are known for taking boys as sex slaves. You understand? Africans, forget about Africans. Many of them dress up as women. You understand? Anytime you can cut a woman's clitoris and mutilate it, you hate women. Anytime you mutilating a woman's vagina, you hate women. That's all we need to know about you. You hate women. You understand? So it's not surprising, you understand, that you would have a all-female regiment of the military. And we're going to get into how that was established as well. You understand? But the kingdom of Benin, the kingdom of Dahomey, the same people, they were notorious and aggressive in the slave trade. They were so aggressive in the slave trade that they were responsible for over 1/3 of the slaves brought over to America. You understand? And this is how it works. A lot of people don't understand how this worked. The white man, he didn't go into the interiors of Africa to round up us in the transatlantic slave trade. When I say us, there's a reason why I'm differentiating, because there's a common lie, a common deception about the slave trade that Africans sold Africans, when that is not true. Africans sold so-called Negroes or black people. The Bible calls us Israelites. We were two separate people. We were living in that land, you understand, as a people who fled from the Roman conquest. And we were living in that land separate amongst the Africans. And so now when the Europeans, when it was time for them now to establish their nations, they needed a workforce. They needed a people who had a long track record in history of building great cities and nations. And who other than the children of Israel have a better track record of making your kingdom great? You can read that Bible just like every nation has always done. They go into the records found in the Bible and they realize, like, these children of Israel whenever a nation has them as their possession, they're able to establish great nations. And that's what the Europeans realized. So now they went to these African generals, these African warlords, and they paid these Africans through guns. That's why everybody want to cry for all these African nations and all the civil war. I remember when the Hotel Rwanda came out, and everybody wanted to, everybody wanted to raise awareness for the crisis in Darfur. And we wanted to cry about the Rwandas, the Hutus, and the Tutsis. You know what I'm saying? And black people, we felt for that because we're compassionate. We seen that and it was like, this is so sad. They're killing each other. You want to know how they got all those guns to murder so many of each other? Through their forefathers making deals with the Europeans for guns and rum. And the deal that they made is that the Europeans would pay these African warlords in West Africa to go now into the land in the interior of Africa and go to war and round up the people that they already were going to war with, which was us. You understand? So this is what the dahomey peoples were famous for. They were famous, notorious for the slave trade. That's why it tells you they were the most familiar out of all the people in West Africa to Europeans, because they had constant interactions, you understand, with the Europeans through the transatlantic slave trade, through rounding us up and selling us, bringing us to the coast where the Europeans waited on ships to sell us. You understand? If you could, Spot, let's keep reading on that. Hold that for just 1 second, because we get into that breakdown in just 1 second.
Significant international trade and diplomatic relations with Europeans, and a centralized administration, taxation systems, and an organized military. Notable in the kingdom were significant artwork. An all-female military unit called the Dahomey Amazon by European observers, and the elaborate religious practices of voodoo.
So let's stop here. So let's just break this down. So let's go back to the movie. So now the movie is based off of a military regiment that was all female. Now, anybody that just has a lick of common sense, somebody type in the chat, why do you think there was a all-female regiment in their military? Somebody that knows a little bit about society and how life really works. Type in the chat, why do you think there was a all-female regiment in a military that had to go to war? Give me 1 second, Shapiro. I want to see if they say in the chat. Let me read these comments. Y'all type in the chat. Why do you think there had to be, well, not had to, why do you think there was an all-female regiment of their military for the Dahomey peoples? Princess said her husband was white in the show How to Get Away with Murder. Yeah, absolutely. You understand? A lot of times she played some bedwench, you understand, to white men all the time, and a couple of other things. You understand? That's Shonda Rhimes, who's the producer for How to Get Away with Murder, where Viola Davis is married to a white man. She's also the producer for Scandal, where Kerry Washington is the plaything, the bedwench whore to some white man. Like Shonda Rhimes she has a fixation with being a slut for the white man, and she puts it in all her shows. You understand? And any black woman that will take that role really just you're leaving a legacy that you don't want to be remembered by. You understand? I don't remember. Cicely Tyson was revered all the way up until her death, because not just for her acting skills, but because of what she stood for. Now, I'm not saying Cicely Tyson was in the truth, but Cicely Tyson had enough sense to say, I'm not taking that role because of this. I'm not taking this role. Cicely Tyson was very selective on her roles, and that's why to this day she will always go down in history as one of the greats, the same way Denzel Washington will go down in history as one of the greats, because of their exclusivity on what they choose to be portrayed as, right? So let's see. Megan Dyer said they needed a group that was disposable. The men were dead. Matthias said lesbians. Well, Baraya, Salakis, brother, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, you absolutely correct. And this is, once again, if you understand anything about society, this shouldn't be hard. Anytime your women now have to fight, there is something completely out of order in your society, because women were not created to fight. Now, I know a lot of women might hear that, and a lot of women, because of the so-called empowerment movement, a lot of sisters are like, well, that's not true. Anything a man can do, we can do it better. Well, I'm going to show you the fate, the end, because they might not show this in the movie. You understand? But because I know history, I can tell you what's going to happen in that movie if they depict it accurately. And I'm going to show you why women were never meant to fight. You understand? Because to this day, you cannot find any of the dahomey women. They all were murdered. They all were massacred in battle. But anytime a woman now has to go to war, it's a key indicator that their society has been tainted, has been destroyed. You understand? You just look at our society as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You understand? The reason why those women had to serve in the military when wars are usually fought by men is because they were destroyed from the civil wars that they were having with the Oyo Empire. If you look them up, the Oyo Empire, you understand, which all of that today is the nine so-called Nigerians, the Yoruba peoples. You understand? They were constantly having civil wars with these people, the Oyo Empire. And so they were people that were slaughtered. You understand? They were constantly slaughtered and going to war. And a lot of the men were murdered. So they were a society already that lacked men. They were a society that lacked men, which is very familiar when you look at the Black community today. Not saying that we're those people, but it's very familiar when you look at our society today. Like everything this movie pushes, it's disgusting. Because in order for the fact that these women had to go fight a war, they don't talk about why they had to be in the military. They had to be in the military because their men were killed, were destroyed. So for any Black woman that bigs up this movie as if it's empowerment, you're an idiot. This is what worst case scenario, where you have a people and the men who would normally go fight for you are murdered or destroyed. So now you have to fight. That's the worst case scenario. If you have any common sense, why would you want to be a woman king? Why would you want to be a woman warrior? But that was the case for the Dahomey peoples. These women now had to go and take up arms to fight for their nation. Also, a lot of the women in their regiment were either volunteered by their husbands. You understand? These were the women in this regiment were women that their husbands couldn't stand. You understand? If you read about the history of it, their husbands a lot of times would involuntarily volunteer them into the military because they couldn't stand them as wives. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, since you're so loudmouthed or you so aggressive or you don't want to be ruled over, I'm going to enlist you into the military. So that's what these African men did to the African women. So now you have this regiment of all women warriors. So let's keep reading what we got.
Oh, God. The growth of Dahomey coincided with the growth of the Atlantic slave trade.
Read that again.
Oh, God. The growth of Dahomey coincided with the growth of the Atlantic slave trade.
One more time, just so everybody can hear exactly what we're saying is true.
Oh, God. The growth of the Dahomey coincided with the growth of the Atlantic slave trade.
Now, this is telling you that these people benefited greatly as a nation and a people from the slavery of our people. As the transatlantic slave trade became more and more prosperous, Dahomey grew. They benefited greatly from it because they were one of the main proponents of the transatlantic slave trade. When you read about Africans selling us into slavery, there were few tribes that were known for being so aggressive in it. The Dahomey, the Ashanti, and I forgot it was a couple of other ones, but the Ashanti and the Dahomey were some of the most aggressive and most prevalent in the transatlantic slave trade when it comes to which Africans that sold us. You understand? So as the transatlantic slave trade grew, their nation and wealth grew. Keep reading.
Come. And it became known to Europeans as a major supplier of slaves.
It became known to Europeans as a major supplier of slaves. History records say that the dahomey peoples, once again, supplied one third, a full third of all slaves in the transatlantic slave trade. 33%. Keep reading.
Come. As a highly militaristic kingdom, constantly organized for warfare, it captured children, women, and men during wars and raids against neighborhood societies and sold them into the Atlantic slave trade in exchange for European goods such as rifles, gunpowder, fabric, cowrie shells, tobacco pipes, and alcohol.
Right. Come this way. Come around here. You understand? Keep reading. So right here, it's telling you that they sold our people for guns, for rifles, different goods. Keep reading.
Okay. Other remaining captives became plantations and were routinely mass executed in large-scale human sacrifices during the festival celebrations known as the annual customs of dahomey.
Now read that part again. I'm going to show you just how disgusting and brutal these people were. As you go to watch that movie and you cheer on Black Girls Rock and Black empowerment, Black excellence, yes, and all that trash, let me show you that these are not, if you're African American, then saying what you would call yourself African American, which is an absolute idiocy to call yourself that. If your parents, your people are the descendants of the slaves, when you go to watch that movie, I want you to feel this in your chest and keep this in the back of your mind about just exactly about the people you're watching this movie about. So read that part again.
Oh God. Other remaining captives became slaves in Dahomey, where they worked on royal plantations and were routinely mass executed in large-scale human sacrifices during the festival of celebrations known as annual custom of Dahomey.
So right here, I'm just going to break down what's going on here. These Dahomey peoples rounded up so many of our forefathers and foremothers for slavery that it became hard to try to feed us. Remember, these voyages weren't as consistent as you may think. You understand? Like, the white man provided the ships from the Arabs building them, but you got to remember now, while the ship was taking its journey, you had these slaves that you had to wait for the ship to come back. So as they were waiting for the ships to come back to put all these slaves on the ships, where were the slaves going to be? They had to be housed. And as slaves are housed, what's a requirement of being housed? Being fed. You understand? So while these slaves were being housed and fed, a lot of times it required them to spend too much money more than they would want to on food and housing. So what they would do is, if it took too long, which normally it did take too long for the next ship to come, they would just have mass executions of our people, just to eliminate how many mouths they have to feed and house. They would take us, men, women, and children, and they would murder us for the simple fact of they didn't want to feed us, while we had to await for the next slave ship to come and take us to another hell. That's what these people were famous for. And they were so famous and routine in doing this that they turned it into a custom. This was a custom that they did for their nation, where they would sacrifice our people, you understand, in mass executions, just for the simple fact of they got tired of, they didn't want to feed us or house us. These are the people who you want now to identify with. These are the people that when you go and watch that movie, you're going to look at it, and because they use a black woman to play an African woman, the white man knows how to get us engaged. You understand? They used a black woman to play an African woman, so now you can identify even more with these African peoples when you shouldn't identify with those people in that movie. You understand? Those are the people that Viola Davis is depicting are the forefathers, are the people that rounded up our forefathers, Salakia. You understand? That's who they are. They're not us. That's not our history. I know a lot of you Pan-Africans, y'all love these type of movies because you always ignorantly attach us to these Africans and their history when that has nothing to do with us. You understand? In a sense of we weren't those people. We were the people that they were murdering, that they were rounding up and enslaving. But of course, they probably won't show that in the movie because they need for you to patronize the movie and identify with it. You understand? Let's keep reading.
Oh, God. The annual customs of dahomey involve significant collection and distribution of gifts and tribute, religious Vadum ceremonies, military parades, and discussions by dignitaries about the future for the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1840s, dahomey began to face decline with British pressure to abolish slave trade, which included the British Royal Navy imposing a naval blockade against the kingdom and enforcing anti-slavery patrols near its coast. During this time period, dahomey was also weakened by military defeat from Baal Kontu and Yoruba city-state, which was founded as a safe haven for refugees escaping slave raids from dahomey.
Right. So now, what you're watching that movie is that so-called woman king, that whole female regiment of the military, they were murdered by the French. They went to war with the French, you understand, and the French put them to death easily. You understand? They put them to death. You understand? There was out of about 1,200 women that was in that military regiment, about 60 remained from after they went to war with the French. You understand? Now this is in the 1800s. This is well after they gained wealth and power from trading our people. You understand? So they were at this point were wealthy and powerful as a small kingdom, a small nation. Like if you look on the map today, Benin is a small nation in comparison to the nations it's surrounded by, compared to Nigeria, Ghana. You understand? It's a small nation. It's a small kingdom, but this was a very powerful kingdom because of the wealth they generated from trading our forefathers and foremothers. You understand? Keep reading what you got. I just sent you an article, Spot. If you see it. Yeah, let's keep reading where we at. If you're just tuning in, make sure you like and share the stream.
Okay, Dahomey later began experiencing territorial tensions with France, which led to the first Franco-Dahomeyan War in 1890, resulting in French victory. The kingdom finally fled in 1894 when the last king, Bahazan, was defeated by France in the Second Franco-Dahomeyan War.
Right. So the movie is depicting those battles. You understand? The movie is not going to, I doubt it's going to touch into really their role in the slave trade as the Dahomey peoples were, but it's more so going to try to paint the image like, oh yeah, see, they fighting against the oppressor. That's if you go watch the movie, I'm willing to guarantee it. Now, once again, I haven't seen the movie. The movie ain't been released yet. It says it's supposed to be released September 16th or 22nd. But because I know history and I know the white man, he's probably not going to show how they captured our people in slavery, but they're going to show when they went to war with the French, because black people can relate to us fighting the oppressor. You know, so we can relate to being oppressed because that's who we're oppressed by, the white man. So even the whole way they're probably going to do the movie is, see, look, we got to fight against it. Look how those women warriors fought against the white man. When that had nothing to do with us, we weren't even over there anymore at that point. We were sold to America. We were on some plantation in America on an auction block getting sold while them stinking Africans was warring with France. And that's what they get too. That's exactly what they get because you colluded with the Europeans to destroy us. You understand? And the Lord turned his hand against you. And those same Europeans who you got rich from came and they took over. You understand? And they came and destroyed your nation. You understand? So keep reading.
Okay. Leading to the country being annexed into French West Africa as a colony of French dahomey.
Right. So let's get the article.
Okay. Benin officials apologize for role in U.S. slave trade.
So now this is for all you so-called black Negroes that want to associate with Africa. You know how much money you make these DNA companies because you believe that Ancestry.com and 23andMe and DNA and Me is going to tell you where you're from. You make the white man rich that own these DNA companies because so many of us ignorantly go and submit our DNA to be told that somehow we're this African tribe and we're 15% this African tribe and we're half this and this and that. When scientists tell you that DNA being used to determine your ethnicity from where you come from is still not a sure science. You can use DNA to determine direct relatives. That's what you can use DNA for. That's a guaranteed science. That's a science that has been proven and proven. But using DNA to now use to say where you come from, that's not a real science. And scientists and DNA anthropologists, they all will tell you that's not true. You understand that? You know what I'm saying? You can't use it for that. Go ahead, Shapak.
If you were to take 7 different DNA tests with 7 different companies, they would give you 7 different results.
And a white man did it. What you said is absolutely true, Shapak. If you were to take 7 different DNA tests from 7 different companies, why is it now that you get 7 different results on where you come from? Because it's not a sure science. If you take 7 different DNA tests to find out if this child is yours or not, either they all gonna say you all the father, or they all gonna say you're not the father. You understand? Because DNA can be used to determine relatives, not where you come from. Even they'll tell you that it's more so for entertainment purposes. You know, it's just for entertainment. But black people, because we are the people that have been robbed and spoiled of our heritage through our language and our culture, through the transatlantic slave trade, there's something in us that wants to know where we come from because we don't know. We don't know where we come from before slavery. So many of the people that pay to get these DNA tests are black people. You understand? And you get the test and then they send you your results back, of course, lying. Oh, you from Senegal, from you this part from Benin, and my people Ghana, Nigeria. And you see many black celebrities jumping on the bandwagon and doing this when it's a travesty, it's a shame. This oppressor wants us to join ourselves to Africans, because as long as we join ourselves to Africans, we're not taking back our real identity as being the people in this book. If we're African, we can't be God's people.
Right.
You understand? If we're Hamites, which the Bible calls, we can't be the children of Israel, who the Lord said he's going to put above the white man and the Africans.
Right.
That's why they need for us to identify so badly with the stinking Africans. You understand? Your hand raised with Shapat.
I don't remember where I seen this one, but I saw something one time where they said somebody submitted a dog's, like an animal's DNA.
I seen it was a lizard.
And they came back with results like you know, they from Africa.
Yeah, I seen it. I said they submitted a lizard's DNA just to see what the results was going to be, to prove the point that it's not a sure science. And the lizard got results as if he was a human.
Right.
You understand? Which lets you know those DNA tests don't tell you who you are. The Bible tells you who you are. You understand? The Bible told us who we were before they learned about DNA test. You understand? Read what you got if you could.
Okay. Richmond, Virginia. Officials from the West African nation Benin apologized during a ceremony here for their country's role in once selling fellow Africans by the millions.
Now stop right there. Let's break this down. Once again, Benin today in Africa, if you look up on a map of Africa, you can put it on your phone. If you look up West Africa, Benin is a small nation. That land, that nation known as Benin is the nation of the Dahomey peoples, the people that are portrayed in the movie The Woman King, who we're speaking about, who played such a major role in the transatlantic slave trade. You understand? So now we're reading about, what year was this? I believe this apology was in 1999.
It says May 1st, 2000.
Right. You understand? So now they reporting on it May 1st, 2000, but the apology first came in 1999. You understand? It's damn near 23 years ago. And this nation of Benin is now apologizing for its role in the slave trade. Now, once again, they're going to throw the propaganda in there and say of fellow Africans when they never sold fellow Africans, because if they sold fellow Africans, why didn't they come to grab those Africans? You understand? Why didn't the land of Benin, the nation of Benin, now send out vouchers for the people of Benin to come back? Because we aren't the people of Benin. The people that they sold were not their family, were not of their race. They were of our family and our race. But there's a reason why. Let's keep reading. Keep reading.
Come. Selling fellow Africans by the millions to white slave traders. The group is making several stops in Virginia and Washington, D.C. to publicize President Matthew Karaku's recent apologies for his country's participation in the slave trade. We cry for forgiveness and reconciliation, and said Luke Nakaja, Minister of Environment and Housing for Benin. The slave trade is a shame, and we do repent for it. Benin, a country of 4.7 million people, was called dahomey in the 17th century, when it was a major supplier for slaves for white exporters shipping from what was called the slave coast.
Right. The entire west coast of Africa was called the slave coast because that's where the ships would harbor, and that's where we would be brought from the interior of Africa to those coasts. If you could, Shapat, on the laptop, you keep typing in the point of no return. I need a picture of the point of no return. You understand? This is a famous place. I believe this is in Benin. Go ahead, Shapat. You said who?
I still got
the water. Yeah, we got to get that in just a second. You understand? The point of no return. You understand? Shalom, Tory Bolton. Pagabo, I said, I won't call my Aka homie ever again. I'm going to call my homie out. You understand? That what we do and what we say ain't got nothing to do with them filthy Africans. You understand? But I feel you. I feel the spirit in what you're saying, brother. You understand? But we're going to show you right here. There's some more history on who these people are and just how bad, just how evil these people were against our people. You understand? The point of no return. Let me see if I can get it too. If you're just tuning in, make sure you like and share the stream. Slave. You just type in slave point of no return. I believe this is in Benin. It's a famous place many of our people go when they visit West Africa. It might be in Ghana. It's like the door of no return.
Okay.
That's what it's called. The door of no return. It's not nothing major. It's just literally the door. When you look out, it's going to be like the ocean. You look out the door, it's going to be, all you see is the ocean. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So the brother going to post a picture online so you can see it. You understand? This is what they call in history the door of no return, or the point of no return, because for many of our people, this was the last thing that we seen, being dragged from the west coast of Africa, being dragged from our homes, having our family murdered and our family rounded up in shackles, and being marched to the coast of Africa, where we would be put on the worst transatlantic slavery, the worst, what's the word? The worst voyage known to man. They say the transatlantic slave trade had a mortality rate that was absolutely ridiculous. So many of us died on the voyage. And that's why you read about many of these Europeans, they took out insurance policies on their ships and on the slaves, you understand? Because it was so much death amongst our people, they wanted to still find a way to get paid. That right there, what you're looking at, and there's nothing major to look at. It's not a major spectacle. But this is a major landmark in West Africa today. I believe it might be in Senegal, Ghana, or Benin. It's one of them, one of the three: Senegal, Ghana, or Benin. It's on the west coast of Africa. And this was the last thing that many of our forefathers and mothers seen. Just imagine it's a ship right there in that water, just a big ship out in the distance, because the big ships didn't come in close because of the size of the ship. So imagine you see canoes, small little boats, canoes right here on the edge, and you see white men, Europeans waiting for us with guns and armor, and out in the distance you see a big ship. And brother, that was the image that our people seen. I can just imagine the smell, the cries, the sounds. This is what we witnessed, the door of no return. And the Dahomey peoples were one of the main perpetrators of bringing many of us to our deaths, many of our forefathers and foremothers to our deaths via this door. You understand? And that's if you were fortunate to make it to this door, because the Dahomey peoples murdered so many of our people just for the simple fact that they didn't want to house us. You understand? To this day, many blacks and Hispanics, you understand, because if you're in the Caribbean, you understand that this is a major place for you too, because this is where we all, it's how we all got there, through this place. So it's a major tourist destination. You understand? Where we at? But so Benin apologized in 1999. Go ahead, Shapat.
Look, it just kind of brings it home in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, where I know it's talking about our homeland, Israel.
Right.
But when it says, "Thou shalt see it no more again."
Right.
Just looking at this picture.
That's exactly what this is. And that's literally what the name of this is, the door of no return, meaning you won't see this again. And thank the Lord, we won't ever see that goddamn stinking land called Africa again. Right. Because even while we were there, we were warring with the African peoples. We were not the same people. Give me Joel 3 and 4, if you could, mighty man. You understand? I'm about to send you 2 more articles that I'm going to need. You understand? If you're just tuning in, make sure you like and share the stream. If you have any questions, you understand, type them in the chat. I meant to ask earlier, so Laki, if you have any questions, type your question in the chat. And also, too, there's a reason why you will see a lot of these African nations, they are pushing so hard to join black people to them, not because they know we're the same people, but there is an increase now for the need for more revenue to come into these African nations. So the way that most of these West African countries receive revenue is through, like many nations, tourism. Tourism accounts for a good portion of revenue for a lot of nations. The problem is nobody wants to go to stinking Africa. It's been like that for a long time. No, people don't go to Africa for tourism. Like, okay, now more so you see an increase in it. But prior to the past I'll say 20 years or so, people don't go to Africa for tourism. Whenever you hear somebody say they go into Africa, the people that you've heard say it, what were some of the reasons why they would go to Africa? It's usually about the same reasons, a couple of reasons why anybody would go to Africa. Shapat?
Trying to run from my oppressor.
I wouldn't even say that. You really don't even hear that. It happens, but that's not frequent. Like the people that go to Africa usually go to Africa for very particular reasons. Shapat?
They believe that they from Africa. Going back to their root.
That's recently. That's recently. I'm gonna hold this up. Most people that go to Africa that have went to Africa before, I'm saying not in the last 15 to 20 years. The last 15 to 20 years, you hear more now what you saying, Shapat, the whole blackity black movement to return to Africa before a long that's been like that since the transatlantic slave trade. You understand, especially with Marcus Garvey, who pushed hard for us to return back to Africa. And you have many black people now that went to Liberia, and the United States established Liberia. But prior to that, to these different waves where black people want to go back, the only time you hear somebody going to Africa is to either spread the love of Jesus as a missionary or to go to help with aid. To go like, oh, I'm going to Africa to help feed the children or to help give out vaccines for malaria. Anytime anybody talks about going to Africa, for the most part, it's to help, because it's a land that needs help that nobody wants to ever go to. It's disgusting. It stinks. It's musty. It's full of flies. And it's the land of flies. You understand? That's why anybody will ever go to Africa. Now, what I'm saying may seem harsh, but this is the truth. You understand? Or they're in the military and you're going to Africa for some covert mission. But the whole idea now to go to Africa as a tourist thing is relatively recent. And this is not by mistake. This is by design. And there's a lot of factors that play into this. Hollywood being chief in that. You understand that Hollywood and then the Christian church, the Christian pastors, our black politicians. Shabar say natural resources. The water, that too, Shabar. Whenever you hear somebody say they're going to Africa, it's either to excavate for archaeology or for natural resources or to help. It's either to take something or to help out. You understand? But you really never heard of people going to Africa just to visit. The same way okay, I'll help you. When black people take vacations, where do we normally go? Shapat? One of the islands, the water. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. We don't go to Africa for vacation as tourism. We go to where our people are. The islands. We go to Jamaica, Bahamas, Barbados, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti. We don't go to Africa for vacation, you understand, as a whole. Now once again, you're seeing an increase in this, and even the African, these West African nations, they'll tell you they're seeing an increase in their GDP, their gross domestic product, in the sense of tourism, because of Hollywood pushing the agenda that we're African. The politicians now trying to join us with African. So they're seeing an increase. The reason why you have more and more Africans talking about to come back to the land and come to the motherland, and they gaming us up to like seem like we're the same people, is for that reason. So you can come and feed their tourism, to feed the tourism. And that's how it started with Oprah. I know Oprah was for a long time, has always been one of the famous black people who always was in Africa, was always doing something in Africa. And she's been pushing and pushing and pushing, you know, saying to do help in Africa. When her show was shot in Chicago, they would shoot the Oprah show in Chicago, where little black kids and Hispanic kids in Chicago needed her help more than anything. But she didn't go there. She went to Africa. It's because she was paid to go to Africa versus helping her own people. And now you see today, many black celebrities go to Africa. Ludacris went to Africa. Stevie Wonder. Many black celebrities. It's the thing now to go. Steve Harvey, to go to Africa, to go to the motherland. And that's not our motherland. That's not our homeland. That was a land that we went into fleeing oppression, fleeing slavery. And because we didn't follow the God of the Bible, we end up still being sold into slavery. Where we at?
The book of Job.
Yep, look at Joel 3 and 4.
The book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 4. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon?
This is the Lord speaking. The Lord is saying, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? If you look into the Bible dictionary, Tyre and Zidon were coastal African cities. You understand? Think of how New York is today. New York is a rich city that's on the coast. That's what Tyre and Zidon were. They were rich, very prosperous. They were African cities that were very rich and prosperous that were on the coast. And the Lord is saying to these Africans, what have you to do with me? Meaning, what do you have to do with me, you Africans? Keep reading.
Oh, God. And all the coast of Palestine, will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense, it's like, and if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head?
Right. You understand? The Lord is saying what these Africans have done to his people, the Lord is going to return it upon their own head speedily. And you seen with the dahomey peoples that they sold us into the transatlantic slave trade, and not too long after, the French came and took over and murdered all them women warriors with them stinking bald heads that you think is so fierce. And that's where they got the subject matter for Black Panther. When you seen Black Panther, and you seen those women who guarded the castle, that guarded the palace, who were the guards, and they had the bald heads. That was Marvel now digging into history and infusing all different type of African culture. But those particular women guards, who were the women that were fighting, that came from these people, the dahomey peoples. You understand? And Black people ignorantly attached ourselves to Black Panther. We ignorantly cheered that on when Wakanda is not even a real place. You understand? It's not even a real nation and not even a real place. The Lord is saying he's going to return the recompense of these Africans upon their own heads. And that's why to this day, Africa is the way it is. You understand? That's to this day, Africans suffer the way they suffer. But guess what? Even as Africans live in suffering, guess what they have that you don't have, Black man? Go ahead, Shapai.
Their own nation.
Their own nation. Their own culture. Guess what Africans know? They know about their lineage. They know about who they are. Africans don't need Ancestry.com. You ever hear of an African taking a DNA test for Ancestry.com? Shapai?
They tell you who they parents are, their land, their city, their tribal name, their tribal language, and the second and third language that they speak in their country.
Yep. The original name of the land that they was in. They know who they are and what they come from. They know. It's you who don't know, Black man, Hispanic man, Native American Indian man. And just like the DNA companies market their trash to us, America markets everything that they do to our people. You understand? Because they capitalize off of our ignorance. Now, I want to see just how full of the movie theaters are going to be of Black women. Because not only is this a play on Black people that were African, but this is a play now on sisters now, because there's this whole movement for women and Black women empowerment. When Black women don't need to be empowered, Black women need to be under control. You understand? And I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to hear. Black women don't need power. Black women don't need liberation. The Bible says a woman destroys herself through much liberation. You don't need power or liberation. And liberation is not what you think it is. You understand? You think going outside with coochie cutters on or Daisy Dukes, you understand, showing the dark side of your tail is liberation. You think being able to twerk on the restaurant table, you understand, is liberation. You think having sex with whoever you want to with no consequences in your mind is liberation. That's what you think. You think leaving your man and being able to have a hot girl summer, you think that's liberation. That's not liberation. You understand? And because you think that's liberation, the white man capitalizes off of your ignorance the same way he did in the garden. You understand? The same way. Let's keep reading Joel.
I got that precept right there that you just said.
Let's get it. Finish Joel first, and we're going to go to that one.
Come, sir. That was the end of the form.
Yeah, keep going. Yep.
Come, sir. Book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 5. Because ye have taken my silver and my gold.
Because you have taken my silver and my gold. What is the Lord referring to, Shapat?
Israel.
That's right. The Lord calls Israel his silver and his gold. And you may not believe it, but every other race of people knows the value of blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. Every race of people views us as silver and gold, as the thing that it's valuable that you need. They sold us and traded us as if we were silver and gold. And the Europeans knew that in order to build the nations that exist today as superpowers, you needed that silver and gold. You needed God's people. And the Africans were the ones who sold us to the Europeans like silver and gold. You didn't understand that this silver and gold, these people that you look at as nothing, who you sold and murdered, they were God's possession. They belong to God. This was money that didn't belong to you. Keep reading.
Come. And have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things.
This is talking about the children of Israel. Keep reading.
Come. Verse 6. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians.
The children of Israel and the children of Judah have you sold into the Grecians, the white man, the Europeans. You Africans sold us to the Europeans. And you turn around today and act like we're brothers and sisters. And you tell us to come back to your land when you wanted us out of your land. And you made sure to get us out of your land by selling us to a people whose language we didn't know, to a people who had no regard for our old and our young, a people of fierce countenance, like the Bible says in Deuteronomy 28. You sold us to our deaths. You sold us to our destruction. And now the white man, he uses his propaganda in Hollywood to now get us to join these same people who hated us, to get us to join and want to be a part of the people and cheer on. Imagine how disgusting that is, to be in a movie theater and cheer on the people who sold us. Like, okay, for you to be a Black, Hispanic, or Native American, and you go to the movie theaters and you watch The Woman King, that's like a Jewish person going to the movie theaters and watching a movie about Hitler and cheering for Hitler. You are a goddamn traitor and you're ignorant. A Jewish person would never do that. But the white man has confounded us and confused us and deceived us into doing that very thing. And we're going to go do it. Many of our people, especially many Black women, are going to go to those movie theaters and you're going to buy them tickets and you're going to sell out the movie theaters the same way we did with Black Panther. And you're going to go and you're going to cheer on these fierce African warriors as you cheer on the portrayal of our forefathers and foremothers oppressors. Nah, man. The Jewish man has more integrity than we do. The white man has more love and integrity for his people than we do. You understand? They would never. Read what you got.
Come. That ye might remove them far from their border. Verse 7. Behold.
And this is what they did when they drug us from our homes when we fled into Africa. They removed us far from our borders. You marched us through the interior of Africa to the west coast, far from our border. If anybody remembers Alex Haley's Roots, so Alex Haley wrote a book called Roots. Of course, we all are familiar with the book. With the movie Salakia. But even in the movie, if you remember the beginning, they were marching. They were rounded up and had to walk a long journey to get to those ships. That is what happened. Those Africans, they marched us and walked us to the west coast, far from our borders, far from our homes, to be put on those European ships. Keep reading.
Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them.
And this is what the Lord is saying. You sold us to the white man, and we now, because of that, we've been scattered all over the place. They don't talk about too often our people that was taken to England. Like we know about the many of us that were brought to the Western Hemisphere, to the islands, to Brazil, to America, but they don't never talk about the many of us that were sent to Europe on those same ships, that was sent to Spain, that was sent to Portugal, that was sent to Amsterdam, that was sent to England. And to this day, we're scattered in all four corners of the earth. The Lord is now going to grab us from all these places when Christ comes back to the places you sold us to. Go ahead, Shapat.
Shout out to the I.S.U.P.K. UK.
Damn right. Shout out to the brothers in the UK getting it in. You understand? Shout out to I.S.U.P.K. UK. You understand? We scattered all over the place. And the Lord says he's going to gather us from all the places we're scattered. You can drop that. Let's get the precept you was holding, Shapat.
Come. The book of Genesis, chapter 3, verse 5. Let me start up for a little content.
Matter of fact, give me 1 Timothy 2 and 14.
Come.
I think this one is a better summary of it. For time's sake.
Come.
You understand? We just tuning in. Make sure you like and share the stream. Like y'all said, it used to be a bad thing to be called an African booty scratcher growing up. You ain't lying. You understand? When I was growing up, it wasn't all this, let's join the Africans in unity. We knew Africans when they came around us, the few that was around us. And you knew them niggas was booty scratchers. You understand? And whatever that means, you understand? Even if you look up, think about the word, it's like it don't make sense really, but it's just to show you how we viewed Africans. Like y'all booty scratchers, man. We're not the same. But now we become adults, and really we had more sense as children than we do as adults. You understand? Because now as adults, now you think you come from booty scratchers. You want to go to the land of booty scratchers. When as kids, you knew, I'm staying away from him. Go ahead, Shapat.
He messed me up with that one. I forgot.
It's a lock, priest. It's a lock. 1 Timothy 2 and 14.
2 and 14.
Yep. But like Mathias said, I remember calling Africans that.
Right.
You understand?
It's
Go ahead.
It's crazy because everywhere in America we used it.
Yeah. And like I said, I didn't grow up on the East Coast. I grew up in the Midwest.
Right.
And you know about it, Mathias. You understand? He grew up where he grew up. And we all can relate that that's a phrase that we use specifically for Africans. We didn't call Arabs booty scratchers. Right. We didn't call Chinese people booty. We called Africans booty scratchers. You understand? Because to us, we knew these were people that were dirtier than us, that were beneath us. We knew that as kids.
Right.
But now as an adult, now you call yourself being educated and smart. When kids knew what the Bible said before, these are people that are beneath you. And you now want to join yourselves to them in their culture when you have your own culture. Go ahead.
But it's crazy. They don't want to be joined to the booty scratchers. They all want to be the kings and queens.
That's the thing. And anybody that's talking Africa, and this is another thing, even in this with this movie, The Woman King, you're going to see now more black people want to associate themselves with these particular peoples. Like whenever you see Africans, you see these movies about Africa, black people always associate themselves with that. They never associate themselves with the rest of the majority of Africans. Just like when the black man say he's from Africa, he believes he's an Egyptian pharaoh. That's what in his mind, he says, I'm African. He believes he's an Egyptian pharaoh. He believes he's either a descendant of Shaka Zulu. You understand? He believes that they attach themselves to the prominent Africans in history. You understand? They believe they are a child of Mansa Musa. You understand? Or Haile Selassie I, if you're from the islands. It's never the ones who mutilate the clitorises of women. It's never the ones who shower in cow urine. Right. It's never the ones who was painting all that gay stuff in the Egyptian tombs. You understand? And was blowing. You understand? It's never those. It's always the prominent Africans, which shows you that black people, we just want to be attached to something meaningful because we are the slaves that have been robbed and spoiled. You understand? Go ahead.
If I get one in, it's never the ones who take their women take the straw and blow pepper inside of their backside. They supposedly keep them youthful.
Right. Exactly. like Pagabwa said, or the plate lip Africans. Yeah. Right. It's never the plate lip Africans who you come from. It's never the ones with the rings on their neck. You You understand? It's never the ones with all them ugly markings, you understand, on their face and all the paint, all the weird paint. It's always the ones who you say is prominent. But the real Africans, the real Hamites, you want no parts of that. You can't pick and choose. If that's who you come from, that's who you come from. But the reality is we don't come from them. You understand? Read what you got.
Come. The book of 1 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 14. Of these things, put them in remembrance, charging them before the Lord that they strive not about words to no profit.
First Timothy 2 and 14.
Come. Oh, it's like that's 2 Timothy.
No sweat.
So, the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 14. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression.
This is for you silly women out there who the white man knows how to market to you. Like everything that is in media today, brothers, this is not for you. Not to say, brothers, you're not culpable, you understand, or guilty as well, because you should be having these sisters now under your authority, where she can't be finessed and hustled by our oppressor. But this is for you silly women out there that think you're so independent and you make your own decisions. The white man has, for a long time now, known to market and to come to you when it's time to deceive. Because the white man knows you are the daughters of Eve. That's what the word naive means. Nigh is Old English for near. And to be near Eve means you are naive, meaning you're simple, you know nothing. Just the same way Eve was simple and knew nothing. And Adam was not the one that was deceived. Read it again.
Oh, God. The book of 1 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 14. And Adam was not deceived.
Adam was not deceived. I know y'all think you don't need men. The same way there's so many sisters now. Don't be surprised when after they see this movie, or even when they go to see the movie, you're gonna see many sisters cutting their head off bald. You think I'm playing? Don't be surprised. This is how impressionable we are as a people. You're gonna see many black women now cut their hair off to be bald, like these stinking African women warriors. You understand? Adam wasn't deceived. You think you make your own decisions and you independent. You think that man that you got in that house is dumb because he don't make as much money as you, or he don't have a job. You think now you know more than him because you have been given more leverage and leadway in this society. Let me remind you, sis, Adam was not deceived. Keep reading.
Oh, God. But the woman,
keep reading,
being deceived was in the transgression.
Eve was deceived, and her being deceived is what caused the sin. You understand? Brothers, don't allow these sisters to be deceived by this society. You understand? Sisters, stop being so goddamn gullible. And the way you stop being gullible is stop believing that you are independent or wise to make your own decisions. You understand? The moment you think you wise, you easy to game up. I've done it in a world. A woman that thinks that she's wise, I've always used that to prey upon her. You understand? As far as I can get this out of her. Because she thinks she knows it all, she's easier to manipulate. Versus a woman that's wise, she say, well, let me call my brother, or let me call my father, or let me call my man to see what he says. That's a woman that's wise. She doesn't think that she doesn't count herself as wise. She says, maybe I need to get somebody that's wise as opinion. And a woman like that, you can't deceive a woman like that. But a woman that I know it all, I'll make my own decisions, those are the easiest ones to deceive. And the proof of it is those are the ones who have all the children with no man, no husband, no one to help. Those are the ones who have chosen the same type of man every single time. You mean to tell me you wise and you know it all and you make your own decisions and you've chose the same type of person? You're in the same predicament again. Maybe you shouldn't make your own decisions. You understand? Maybe you shouldn't be the women warrior. You can't be like them African women. You understand? Them African women did what they had to do out of necessity. You understand? And they failed. They failed. And I hope they show that in the movie. They all were murdered. You shouldn't seek to be like them. You should seek to be a feminine woman who the Lord called that says is better than those stinking Africans. You understand? Go ahead, Shapak.
Oh, no, I was going to say them doing it over and over again with the same man. That's called insanity.
That's exactly what that is. You understand? Keep going.
Calm. You want to go to the next? Go to 15?
Yep, go to 15, Baba Shaw.
Calm. Verse 15. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbirth.
Stop right there. Give me if you could type in on Google, Shapak, Cujo Lewis, Cudjoe, Cujo Lewis. Well, I'm gonna end it with this brother right here. Read what you got on this brother, Cujo Lewis. Some of you may be familiar with this brother's name. If you are a scholar of Black history, you should be familiar with this brother's name. We're gonna get it in just a second. As soon as the brother pull it up, if you just tuning in, make sure you like and share the stream. Like and share the stream. No, just read up on what you got on here. I'll put an image if I can find one. Excuse me.
Calm. Cujo Lewis. Cujo Kazula Lewis. Born 1841, died July 17th, 1935. Born Aluali Kasola, and also known as Cujo Lewis, was the third to last adult supervisor of the Atlantic slave trade between Africa and the United States, together with 115 other African captives. He was brought to the United States on board the ship
Clotilda.
In 1860. The captives were landed in backwaters of the Mobile River near Mobile, Alabama.
Right. So for those of you that don't know, you understand. Let me share this image so you can see him. Those of you don't know, this brother that we're reading about, this brother's name Cujo Lewis. His slave name's Cujo Lewis. You understand? This brother right here, at one point in time, he was regarded as the last slave of the transatlantic slave trade. Of course, they end up finding out that there were two sisters, you understand, who died 2 years after him, who were the last women. But this brother right here, you understand, this brother right here was the last, and for a long time was regarded as the last slave of the transatlantic slave trade. He was the last man. There were two sisters also who were with him on that same ship, who they found out later were alive still. But this brother, his story, there's a sister, her name is Zora Hurston Neal, or Zora Neal Hurston. Let me make sure I get her name right. It's like, make sure I get her name right. Go ahead, Shapak.
Calm. The captives were landed in backwaters of Mobile River near Mobile, Alabama, and hidden from authorities. The ship was scuttled to evade discovery and remained undiscovered until January 2018.
Now, why do you think they had to hide this ship? Anybody know anything about history? This ship that this brother Cujo Lewis came on, which was called the Clotilda, was the last slave ship. But why did they hide this ship? Anybody know why they had to hide this ship? I'll tell you why for times. Go ahead, Shapak.
Because slavery was banned by them.
By this time, slavery was banned. It was officially illegal, which lets you know that slavery being abolished legally meant nothing to these oppressors.
Right.
You understand? They still were conducting the slave trade even after it was abolished. And the proof of that is this brother. This brother was brought on a ship, an illegal ship, you understand, in the slave trade that was abolished. And so when they were brought over here, they were brought to Alabama and they had to hide in the swamps. You understand? This brother had to hide in the goddamn swamp with the rest of the slaves that were on that ship, and they hid out for days. And they had to hide because it was illegal for slavery to bring slaves to America at that point, but it was still going on. And so after they finally took them to a plantation and they burned that ship. So there was no trace that the slave trade was still going on. They burned the ship. Keep reading.
After the Civil War and emancipation, Lewis and other members of the Clotilda group became free. A number of them founded a community at Magazine Point, north of Mobile, Alabama.
Right. So if you go there to this day, they call it Magazine Point or Africa Town, different things like that. Once they were so-called freed, they founded this town. Now, Zora Neale Hurston, this sister was an anthropologist and she was a writer. And so she set out across the nation trying to find the last slave. You understand? The last slave of the slave trade. And she found him, which is this brother right here, Cujo Lewis. She spoke to this brother and she wrote a book about this brother's experiences. She went even as far as to write it in his dialect. You know how we speak? Like, oh, I ain't gonna go there, I'm gonna be there. She wrote in his dialect. And because of that reason, and one more other reason, they didn't publish it. The sister Zora Neale Hurston, she had a hard time finding anybody to publish the book because of the dialect that she wrote it in, which is English. It's just broken English how we speak, because she interviewed the brother. So she wanted it to be as true to what he was saying as possible. So she wrote it how he spoke. You understand? And the main reason why she couldn't find a publisher is because in the book, Cujo Lewis reveals the hatred that the Africans had for our people. The book today is called Barracoon. You can read it. You can buy it online. You can go and get it on Amazon for cheap. It's called Barracoon by Zora Neale Hurston. This sister, in this book, she's given the account. It's pretty much an autobiography of this brother right here. And Cujo Lewis talks about him being captured by the Dahomey peoples. Cujo Lewis. The same female warriors that you're going to go sit in the movie theater and praise as being heroes, Cujo Lewis, the last remaining slave of the slave trade, gives a chilling and terrible account of how vicious and evil these Dahomey women and people were when they came to round up his people and took them and sold them on the ship. You can read about it. I said, I'm going to get the book and I'm going to buy this book as soon as I get a chance to, because I want to read about it. You understand? I want to know about this brother's story, because more often than not, we don't get stories. We get stories about Africans. They'll tell you a story about Africans all day. You understand? They'll go as far as to make up a fake African land and tell you that story. But brothers like Cujo Lewis can't get a story. The white man didn't want Cujo Lewis' story to be told because it convicted and it what's the word? It charged Africans for selling us. You understand? And that's why at that time, even many black people who sat in authority didn't want this book to be published. So this sister Zora Neale Hurston was damn near blackballed for this book. You understand? Because nobody wanted to hear how Africans sold black people into slavery. And Cujo Lewis talks about it. He talks about just how brutal and violent that the Dahomey people were when they came and rounded up his people. You understand? So when you go and watch that so-called Woman King, just know this is the people that brought this brother over here. This is the people that illegally sold this brother to the white man. You understand? And the white man illegally brought him over and illegally had him as a slave when the law said slavery was abolished. You understand? You remember that. These are the people that whose stories get told when none of our stories get told. There's so many black people in history who deserve a story. Anybody know who Dr. Vivian Thomas is? Shapat?
First open heart surgeon.
I said, you know. How many of us don't know? How many of you type a 2 in the chat if you don't know who Vivian Thomas is? If you've never heard of Vivian Thomas, and don't lie. Type a 1 if you heard of him. Type a 2 if you have not heard of who Vivian Thomas is. Yeah, he played it in the movie. They did a movie adaptation of his story with Mos Def. Mos Def played him in a movie called God, it's something, God Created or something like that. You understand? So tools. And it's not to shame y'all that don't know. You understand? It's not to shame you that you don't know, but I'm just showing you how many of us how many stories and figures that we have in history that have contributed so much to this stinking society, and they don't get their recognition. Vivian Thomas, who's a brother, had to fight to be accepted. And he is the reason why the white man can get operated on and open heart surgery is because of that black man. And you never hear his story. You never hear about him in Black History Month. You understand? The problem with our society that we live in is that they teach us, you understand, to now, if you could, get them out of here. They teach us to join and be a part of a society that will never recognize us. But they will get us now to recognize somebody else. That's how you know we're not Africans. From Egypt to Israel said, honestly, sir, I only learned of him due to Mos Def movie back in the day. That's no sweat. That's the truth. That's the honest truth. You understand? But imagine without the movie, how many of us wouldn't have known about him at all? You understand? If you could, take that off the screen, Baba Shah. Let me see. Hold on, I got you. Okay, there you go. Right? You understand? So how many stories that are being untold? How many stories that exist amongst our people that are not being told? You understand? The woman, the sister who created the GPS system. You understand? Henrietta Lacks. Anybody know who Henrietta Lacks is? They used her stem cells for medical discovery. And to this day, everybody benefits from her body being used. Everybody in the face of the earth benefits from Vivian Thomas. Not just America, everybody on the face of the earth. Go ahead, Shapak.
They actually sprayed the space shuttles with her T cells because it something in our skin blocks the sun.
I'll be interested to see the validity of that. I had to look that up. If that's true, brother, that is absolutely amazing. But I would have to look that up for myself to verify that, because that sounds like something somebody would say that's in the conscious community. Now, it could be true. But that sounds like, well, yeah, it could be true. I'm going to look it up. But it definitely sounds like one of those melanin nurse. Because of melanin, brother. I hear y'all. You understand? Right. It's a superpower. You understand? Well, guess what? The dahomey people had melanin as well. Right. And so then they had power over you. So how come they melanin gave them power over you? And you didn't have enough power in your melanin to stop them from selling us into slavery. I'll tell you why. Because that melanin has nothing to do with anything. You understand? It's your bloodline that matters. And the bloodline that we come from, the bloodline that this brother Cujo Lewis comes from, you understand, that's right here in this picture, is the bloodline that the Lord chose. And the Lord said that if we disobey him, then these things will be allowed to happen. You understand? These atrocities that have happened to us will be allowed to happen if we turn our backs from the laws in the Bible. That's why in the I.S.U.P.K, we push to follow God's laws. And you're watching now that we're building strong families. We're building a society within a society. You understand? But for time's sake, we're going to cut it here. Y'all just, when y'all get a chance, y'all go ahead and look up Zora Neale Hurston's book, The Barracoon. You understand? Barracoon. She also wrote a book called Our Eyes Were Watching God. Many of you have heard of that book. Yeah, many of you have read it before. She's also the author of that book, Our Eyes Were Watching God. Yes, and this sister was an excellent sister as far as the work she did in anthropology and sociology. You understand? She really took the time out to bring to light our voice and our story in a time when nobody wanted to hear from us. Nobody still doesn't want to hear from us, but imagine back in the 1930s. You think anybody want to hear about a former slave? Hell no.
How you spell her name?
Zora, Zora. Okay. Neale Hurston. Yep. Well, Zora Hurston, Hurston. Go ahead, Shapak.
It's like if I may, I read that book, God's Eyes of Botulism. I can't remember the title. Yeah. But I remember seeing the movie and I was so disappointed. I'm like, man, this wasn't half as good as the book. Yeah. You know what I mean? They usually do that when it comes to the movie, because the thing is, whenever they make movies about our stories, they're going to differentiate from the books so much because
more people watch movies. Right. So all the reality that's in these books, they're gonna now omit it from the movie because the movie has a bigger audience. You understand? So now they're not gonna show you everything that was in the book and all the harsh realities that exist in the movie because it's a bigger audience. And once again, they have to further their agenda. You understand? I'm not telling y'all don't have to go watch the movie The Woman King, but if you do decide to watch it, I think I might watch it just to see how they would do it. But then again, I probably won't watch it. But if you watch it, don't watch it and cheer on those stinking African broads. You understand? Don't watch the movie and identify yourself with a goddamn movie. You understand? Those are not our people. Those were the people who sold us. And you keep that in your mind as you watch those 50 African warriors. Because the white man, he gonna make it where you want to root for these women against the big bad white man. When really our enemies, you watching a movie about two of our enemies fighting. That's it. You watching a movie about two of our enemies fighting. You should just, if you go to watch the movie, you should just watch it objectively and not get attached to anybody, because both of the groups in the movie are our enemies. The French were our enemies. You ask the Haitians that. You understand? And the dahomey people, the Africans were our enemies. We are not African. You understand? Stop attaching yourself to these Africans. We're not African. The Lord made a difference between Israelites and Africans. You understand? And that's, once again, that's for another class. But go ahead, Shapat.
Stop with this, man. I'll show one last thing.
Yep.
It's very disgusting how, you could just pull a wiki up on the dahomey tribe.
Right.
So you mean to tell me that this woman, what's her name again, that's playing
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis. She didn't even wiki, and most likely she did. She knows who those people are.
She knows.
And knows that they sold us, but she gonna play the role.
Not only did she play the role, brother, Viola Davis is helping to produce the movie, which should tell you that whatever she plays in, you should look at her to know that she's in this movie to further an agenda. But this is okay. It's almost that she's getting. You gotta look at it another way too. She's ignorant. You understand? She could look at it. She might identify as being the descendant of those people because she doesn't have the truth. You understand? If she were in here, she would know. Why would I play the people who enslaved my people? But just like most of our people that are ignorant, we relate to our slave master more than we do to our own people. Go ahead.
It's like a comment, interesting comment. Mataya Banyamu said Jack Johnson, the heavyweight champ, invented the wrench.
I heard that before. I absolutely heard it before. I didn't know how true it was, but I have heard it on many occasions that Jack Johnson did invent the wrench that we all benefit from today. You understand? This is why it's good to have the truth, because if you have children, imagine the propaganda that's being taught to our children in these schools. That's why, as a parent, you should be in here. You should be in here, because as your child goes to school every day to learn the programming and propaganda, you have to be able to now deprogram them when they get home. And you have to have the knowledge and the wisdom to do that. And we specialize in that in here. You understand? In the I.S.U.P.K. But with that, we're going to pass the class over to Priest and Officer Shapat Dayak. All right. If you just tuning in, make sure you like and share the stream.
I.S.U.P.K. security announcements. We the I.S.U.P.K. out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yahanna. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21. In the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 through 10. Means tenth in Hebrew, and it's pronounced ma'aishu. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests. No, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you like to give. Upcoming holy convocation. Memorial blowing of trumpets. First day of the 7th month. Sunday, the 25th September 2022. You can find us in the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 24 through 25. Remind Akim and Akwati to check on social media such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, you should start wearing all black, which includes black boots, black shirts, black pants, black headband or scarf. And with that, I say Amakim, which means to stand. We're going to give a courtesy salute to the teacher, men of Israel, Mount Shabbat, and Michael, Barak, Yahweh Shemi Abshabrakatah.
Yahweh Shemi Abshabrakatah.
Yah give Matah, class dismissed.
All right. Also, Israel, make sure y'all tune in to Commanding General Yahanna's The Black Watch every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You understand? Share, like, and share these classes. Push this truth. You understand? The Lord allow. We'll see y'all next week, man. Shalom. We out of here.